It's 6:30. I will call this regular meeting of Winkler Council to order. As the City of Winkler, we acknowledge that we're situated on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people in the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories. We acknowledge that there have been harms and mistakes in the past, but we dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect of all peoples, including Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious and prosperous future together. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of July 11th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Peter?
Marvin?
Marvin got you by a little bit, Peter.
I'll concede to Marvin.
Any other thoughts on the agenda?
He's been here longer than me.
There you go. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 27th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second.
Peter?
Pete got that one. Any comments on what you see there? Everything correct? All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on then into correspondence. We have a letter there from the province on a merit-based grant program. We have a letter from municipal relations with regard to asset retirement obligations. Few different pieces there that explain what that is all about. Obviously, if in fact we have some costs that are trailing on damages to pieces, that we have to be aware of them. So that from what we understand from our staff, this will not be a significant piece that we will necessarily run into. Some of the pieces like Swamp that we are partners in already make those kinds of adjustments on their books to make sure that they're prepared for them. It's good for you to have in front of you so that you're aware of it. Shouldn't affect us in a significant way. Moving forward, Jody accepted a petition on our behalf. Maybe Jody, if you want to explain to us a little bit what we're looking at here.
Yep. We received a petition from businesses from around all of the neighboring municipalities, generally who are part of the Associate Central Regional Libraries. And there's a number of businesses that signed that petition, a good number of businesses. And it, in the end, relates to a request about the types of material in the libraries and in request essentially that tax dollars be removed from those libraries. So, and I've given a note to you as council about that.
Yep.
It's, the petition isn't an official petition that would be regulated by any of the provincial acts, and it's therefore just considered a general petition, and we don't really have any policies or bylaws to which general petitions must conform. So there's therefore no requirement for me to determine the sufficiency of the petition as we would need to if it was a provincially regulated petition. So there's no debate required, there's no decisions necessary based on the receipt of a general petition. It's just a document that's presented on behalf of some of the community to council, and it's to voice their opinion on an issue of municipal importance, and it basically just, the number of signatures lends weight and legitimacy to the concern.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation, Jody. That takes us through our correspondence. Moving then to our accounts. Be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $1,028,566.14 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen?
As always, you see the check register attached. Any questions on that? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the finance report for May 2023 be received for information. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Don Friesen?
And that report is attached. We're lucky that we have our Chief Financial Officer, David, here this evening. If you have any questions on what's in front of you, feel free to ask. Is there anything particular, David, that you need to draw our attention to?
Except with the ones that I highlighted.
David mentioned nothing necessarily that he needs to bring our attention to, but he did highlight a few items, and you guys can take a peek at those. And I'm paraphrasing, for those in the room, I'm paraphrasing that because we broadcast all of our meetings. We want to make sure that everyone has the same information that we have here. Okay, not seeing anything further. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the attached changes to Schedule A to E of fees and changes bylaw 2285, fees and charges, sorry, bylaw 2285-22 be approved. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Don Fair?
Okay, you see them attached. Anything doesn't make sense to you? Jody, anything particular there that we need to be aware of, or is that all
I don't
fairly-
think so. Most of these have gone through committees already,
Okay.
so.
Excellent. All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the attached utility arrears be added to their respective tax rolls. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Michael?
You see them there. Any questions on what you see? If memory serves me correctly, David, that number is down a little bit from the last time, right?
It's very much in line.
Very much the same? Okay.
Usually, yeah, around that.
Okay. Any further thoughts? Not seeing any? All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the Winkler Fire Department report for June 2023 be received for information. Mover.
Don Fair?
Second.
Michael?
Anything to add to what we see here, guys?
Well, we're down again, or still down from in June of this year compared to last year, from 108 calls last year to year-to-date to 90 this year. So we're still on a good trend, and the rain has definitely helped with bringing the fire levels down.
Absolutely. It's nice to be able to have a fire in the backyard again, but we'll need to have more rain if we want to keep doing that. Anything else?
Well, I guess our new recruits have written their written part, and so they're working with the rest of the members now, and they're expecting to get a date for them to do their practical exam in fall. So it's exciting to see.
Excellent.
About 8 new members.
Right on.
Very nice. All in favor? And we're carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2279-22 to approve water and sewer rates for the city of Winkler be given second reading. Mover?
Marvin.
Second?
Peter?
Peter? David, maybe if you would come and walk us through a little bit of what exactly we're looking at and what the changes may be.
So this is our utility rate review that we started in 2022. That's when we had the first reading for this bylaw, and that was a time when we also submitted it to the Public Utilities Board after. We worked with Ken Anderson from Associate Engineering together to come up with the proposal to the PUB. So we received feedback back from the PUB last month, and they approved new rates for the city of Winkler for 2023, 2024, and 2025. The new rates for 2023 will start as of July 1st. So after we have second and third reading now, we will be able to implement the new rates and charge it for the quarter 3 and quarter 4 of 2023. When we look at the change for 2023, the water rate went up by 2.3%, the sewer rate increased by 2.65%, and our service charge increased by just over 51%. And we had to increase the service charge by this much because the service charge is supposed to cover the total admin cost on the utility side. And our last rate review was in 2012, so we fell a little bit behind, and not our total admin cost was covered in the service charge. That's why we see a little bit of a larger increase on the service charge. Overall, this would probably mean for the average residential water user, probably an increase of around 7% from the previous bill.
Okay, thank you, David. Any questions of David? The full rate review is an onerous process, so we don't do it regularly, which is why we're back now to 2012 rates. We do have an option moving forward in the future to do a less intensive review, which is going to allow us to hopefully stay on top of it every couple of years, so that when we do have changes, and obviously everything costs differently in 23 than it does in 2012. So the fact that there is an increase, I don't think surprises any of us, but it is important that, again, that we make sure that this is a well-funded, stable utility, and in order to do so, we have to make sure we fund our reserves properly and our operations properly. Any further thoughts or comments? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2279-22 to approve water and sewer rates for the city of Winkler be given third and final reading. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Marvin?
Go ahead, Mark.
Marvin got that one. Well, he's quick this morning, or this afternoon, I'll call it. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Continuing then to planning, be it resolved that bylaw 2305-23 zoning bylaw amendment be given first reading. Mover?
Don Friesen.
Second.
Don Fair?
Any questions or comments? Obviously, as always, first reading puts it out there and allows us to do the rest of the work that needs to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that Discovery Nature Sanctuary minutes for the May 30th, 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Michael?
Any comments on what you see? All in favor? Carried. Before we move to the next agenda item, I would like to declare an interest as my business is mentioned in those next minutes. I'd like to turn the chair over to you, Andrew, and Jody, I'd like to excuse myself from the meeting.
Thank you, Henry.
Can we call you back?
Please.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Explore Morden Winkler Board minutes for the June 27th, 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Michael?
Second?
Marvin?
Thank you, Marvin. Any comments or questions?
Well, they continue to, I guess at this point, brainstorm some ideas to generate some tourism and just getting people to the region.
Right on. Anything else? Okay. All in favor? It's carried. We'll bring Henry back in.
Okay.
Whoops. 13-1.
Thank you. I will take the chair back and move to 13.1. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover.
Don Friesen?
Second.
Peter?
All in favor? Carried. Jody will move into 13.2, public hearing for variation number VA 2023-13 for 840 North Railway Avenue.
Yes, this is an application to construct an unsheltered deck. The variance requested is to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 25 to 15 feet and the minimum railway right-of-way setback from 100 feet to 15 feet. As mentioned, this is at 840 North Railway, and its applicant and owners John and Nettie Fraze. We have not received any objections to this application. And just for information on the railway right-of-way, it does make a difference that it's not considered part of the dwelling space.
Okay.
So it's an unsheltered deck.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak to this proposal? Council, you see a number of supporting documents there as well. Do you have any questions before we close the hearing?
Thought you were gonna read the 122-page guideline on the operations. Thank you
For
for not.
in the interest of brevity, we'll say no. Therefore, be it resolved, the public hearing for variation number VA 2023-13 be closed. Mover.
Peter?
Second.
Andrew?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variance number VA 2023-13. Mover.
Michael?
Second.
Don?
Final questions? All in favor?
How's the city now implicated in that with, if we grant that?
I think to Jody's point, we worked extensively with the proponents to try to come up with something that would make some sense, including reaching out to the railroad. The fact that this is not connected to the dwelling gave them some comfort and it allowed us to move forward more comfortably that this makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's an
Yeah.
excellent question. Thank you.
The other thing that changed was it's no longer enclosed, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm glad they came to some form of agreement.
Agreed.
I think this was a difficult one to go through from a couple of people who had bought a property and were looking to make some improvements to be very surprised by something here. And the diligence that our staff used to go through it to come to this type of solution, I'm actually very proud of them for that. Thank you, Jody and team.
Pass it along.
All in favor? And that is carried. We'll continue then to combined public hearing for conditional use number C 2023-007 and variance number VA 2023-011. Jody?
Yep, these applications come in order to construct an 8-unit Bearland condominium as a planned unit development. This is at 960 Adora Avenue. Applicant and owner is 4608675 Manitoba Limited. And a planned unit development is a conditional use in the SI zone. And the variance requested is to reduce the required site area from 3 acres to 1.04 acres for the planned unit development. And we have not received any objections to these applications.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anybody here wishing to speak to this? Not seeing any. Again, council has a number of supporting documents there. Any questions before we close the hearing? Be it resolved that combined public hearing for conditional use number CU 2023-007 and variation number VA 2023-011 be closed. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Don?
Don, questions? All in favor? Continuing then, approve conditional use number CU 2023-007. Mover,
Don Friesen?
second.
Michael?
Oh, go ahead,
Michael got you there.
Michael got me there.
Any questions or comments on? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variance number VA 2023-011. Mover,
Marvin.
second.
Peter,
Questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover,
Don Fair?
second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. That takes us to the other business portion of our meeting. Be it resolved that City of Winkler Council appoint Don Fair as the council representative of the South Central Regional Library for a period of 2 years. Mover,
Peter,
second.
Don Friesen?
Any thoughts or comments? All in favor? Thank you for your agreement to serve.
Just also want to say thank you for Marvin for all his many years of service on the library board.
Noted. You have been a valiant servant there to the city. Continuing then to our next piece. There is significant weight to this next discussion. I'd like to read the whereases and not just the resolution, if council would so indulge. Whereas Winkler City Council recognizes and appreciates the tremendous value of a strong public library system for the health and well-being of our community. And whereas Winkler City Council believes that parents should be primarily responsible for the teaching and education of their children and the resources used in such teaching and education. And whereas Winkler City Council supports the South Central Regional Library Board's strategy of ensuring educational resources are available to assist parents in these teachings, and whereas Winkler City Council has grave concerns around the availability of graphically sexually explicit books in the children's section of the Winkler Library. And whereas Winkler City Council recognizes that responsibility for policy and operations of the Winkler Library has been legislatively granted to the South Central Regional Library Board by the province of Manitoba. And whereas Winkler City Council requested that the South Central Regional Library Board develop policies specifically around the display of graphically sexually explicit books in the children's section of the Winkler Library. And whereas the board of the South Central Regional Library considered this request and replied that their policies had been reviewed 3 separate times in the past year, and based on those internal and external reviews, feel those policies to be robust and complete. And whereas Winkler City Council remains concerned around the lack of a policy specifically around books available in the children's section containing graphically sexually explicit topics, and whereas it is the desire of City Council to support and assist the South Central Regional Library Board in maintaining and growing a strong, healthy library that serves all members of our community. And whereas Winkler City Council has the legislative authority to appoint 2 members to the South Central Regional Library Board, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Winkler Council instruct these appointed board members to exert influence as members of the South Central Regional Library Board of Directors to create policy whereby graphically sexually explicit books be moved from the children's section to another section of the library as appropriate, so that children will not stumble across them, but they remain available to parents who wish to use them as an educational resource. Mover,
Don Friesen?
second.
Don Fair?
I would give each member of council an opportunity to speak to this if they so desire.
I'll start.
Please.
Okay. this has been I would say the hardest time period of being a counselor, that in the last 8 years, this is going 9th year, that we've been involved with. We have been tackling this and discussing it for at least 6 months now, if not more. We looked at all different angles. We trying to search our hearts and minds to what to do and all that. And, it's a hard decision, and things probably were said that shouldn't have been said. And emotions may have gotten a bit high. However, I think after all the meetings that we've had and discussions that we've had on this, this resolution, I think, resonates a good path to follow as far as helping maintain a library that is very well attended, one that has good roots and has been in the community for many years, and we'd like to continue that, and where we can give our leadership and support in that matter. I feel that that'll bring us to places where we like to see where we want to be, and it's all about our citizens and our children. That is huge, that we do what's best for them, and in all the policies and resolutions that we make, whether it's investing millions of dollars or investing smaller dollars, we got to make sure that it has a benefit for all involved in our community. And with the library that we've invested over many, many years, I believe we will continue to invest in that. And we would like to see the library grow in a positive and moral part of our community.
Thank you, Don. Anybody else wish to speak to it?
I will.
Peter?
How did we ever get to a place where we have to discuss whether or not this material should be allowed in our library? It's concerning. How did we get to a place where these books were ever even selected to be in our libraries? Who asks for this material? I think that's a big question. The books in question should never have made it through the library doors, but now that they have, it seems they can't or won't be removed. I would recommend to all those who haven't seen this content to do themselves a favor and find a copy of these books and peruse through them. It's certainly an eye-opening experience. We have somebody here who just recently did a bit of a YouTube video on it. It was well done. Thank you, Crystal. It will challenge your thought process when you've seen this stuff. But I will support this resolution because it does ask that the books be moved to a place where children, who are a vulnerable and sometimes unprotected segment of our society, that they can't stumble across them by mistake. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Sure.
Please.
Like Bill Murray being stuck in a time loop and reliving Groundhog Day in his movie of the same name, we seem to relive this discussion every time we meet. So I'll get to my point. I support parental choice and freedom within the scope of the law, even if I personally disagree with that parent's decision. I support the South Central Regional Library, their employees, and their board of directors. Until a time that I have evidence to indicate otherwise, I believe they understand the scope and significance of their role and the role that the library plays in our community, its growth and its well-being. I absolutely and unequivocally believe we have a responsibility to protect our children. The world we live in has a lot of repugnant places, and I hope they never have to encounter those. The library should not be one of those places. Do I like these books that are being challenged? Absolutely not. I feel the same way about them as I would about Mein Kampf, 50 Shades of Grey, the literary works of Charles Manson, and many more. But by only moving the books, we're doing nothing more than chasing a boogeyman. Even if a sexually explicit or murderous book is in adult reading, my elementary age children could walk into a library and take out these books if they're available. The responsibility of my children, what they read, what they watch, what they listen to, falls on my shoulders as a parent. To any parent that would listen, your children are your legacy. Give them the love and attention they require. They're the ones that are gonna tell stories about you after you're gone. Do you really want those stories to be about stuff they found online or at the library while you were too busy to notice? In closing, I believe our appointees can exercise change through dialogue and relationships at the board level, and that those healthy conversations and relationships are what make Winkler a great regional partner and a regional leader. And I will support this resolution.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to add some comments?
I can do that.
Please.
We're a city where you can dream, build, live, a city where respectful interaction is valued. I want to thank Mayor Siemens for the work you have done on the allegations of SCRL containing pornography, specifically child pornography. I also want to thank SCRL for the excellent services provided in all 5 branches, supported by 7 municipalities. SCRL is the envy of many in our province because of accessibility to more than 300,000 books, with more than 20,000 checkouts this past June. Members in all municipalities have the ability to pick up and drop off materials in any branch. Also, they can have any book brought to their branch from any other branch. SCRL has very dedicated, professional, and trained people working in all branches. SCRL has a robust and well-respected collection development policy that includes a policy on all pornography, including child pornography. I am personally opposed to all forms of pornography. SCRL does not have any pornography in our shelves. Calling materials pornographic does not make it so. Censoring books based on content some find objectionable can have far-reaching and unintended implications. Kids' books usually have graphic images, books about birds, trees, animals, how things work, etc. We live in a most incredible country, a country where we're allowed to have and express different opinions. In a democracy, we're encouraged to respectfully listen and express our opinions. We have 7 council members because we believe in collectively coming up with decisions that take into account as much information and as many opinions as possible. As members of various intermunicipal boards, we follow the same procedures, Swamp and Pembina Valley Water Co-op, for instance, knowing that we do not always agree on all issues and that it takes continued respectful discussions and interactions to affect growth. It is not our council's general practice to create resolutions that direct our members on specific outcomes in our intermunicipal boards. With respect, cooperation, and partnership in mind, I believe it's better to participate in discussions without this resolution that may be interpreted as a threat.
Thank you, Marvin. Anybody else like to speak to this?
I would,
Please.
I know we've debated this thing almost to death. And to me, I can support this resolution. I wish there'd be a little more specifics in it, because graphic sexual content is graphically sexually explicit topics, whatever. I don't want to be that we're banning books, but to me, you know, when I look at the state of North Dakota, how they wording some of their laws, and they talk about, you know, some you know, when you have children's books with explicit, you know, masturbation instructions, deviant intercourse, invitation to try pornography, that is what I'm, you know, what to me is graphic sexually explicit topics is.
Right.
For the next person, that may not be, but for me, for children's books, when I see stuff like that in books for children's, books, to me, that needs to be moved up. But I know that leaves it for interpretations of even more stuff. So I just hope that people think we're not banning books, but we're putting barriers there that if some of these topics like that are whatever moved into adult section, would be, but other than, yeah, I will support this, resolution.
Thank you, Don. Any thoughts, Andrew?
I don't have a well-written speech like a lot of these guys, but this has been a least favorite topic of mine in my 9 years of council as well. Appreciate the work that you've put into it, Henry, but I don't have a whole lot to add to this.
It's
But
been
I
a
will
difficult topic.
But I will support your resolution.
This afternoon, my son and his nana went to the library. It was a highlight of his day. I had a chance to talk to him just before I came to council. He was excited about the books he found. He was there, excuse me, with a trusted adult. And I think that is our key. We as adults, as nanas and papas, as moms and dads, need to be aware of what our children are reading. It is vital that we enact, and I really appreciated that comment, Michael, in the fact that we do have to. We have a limited opportunity to exert influence into our children's lives, and it is vital that we do so. The responsibility for what our children consume is ours. And I also want to recognize that my thoughts and what I would like my children to consume may well be different than what many other parents would like their children to consume. What I use as a teaching resource for my children will be different than what others use as a teaching resource. What I want and need, I would like to have there, and what others like and need should also be there, even if I don't agree with it. Where your freedoms start does not mean that my freedoms end. I think we have to recognize that. The concern that we have, and the reason that we're here, and Don, you said it well, we're not looking to ban books. We're asking that for those very explicit, very graphically explicit books, that there be a policy created around that. We are not going to create that policy. It is not our authority to create that policy. We do not have the skill set to create that policy. We do not have the breadth of experience needed to create that policy. But we do feel strongly that a policy specifically toward this be created. Our representatives on that board will be tasked to exert influence as they can, but they do need to still be fully functioning members of that board. They need to behave as board members, fulfill their responsibilities to that board. But where there are opportunities, this is something that we would like to see considered. When we move from here, it is my hope that we are able to send this back to the library, that the board will consider that the board will review that. It is our intention to help the library be stronger tomorrow than it is today, to grow, to be yet a better resource. We went through a lot of whereases where we specifically noted the importance and the value of the library to our community. It is a tremendously valuable resource. My wife and I have taken our kids there all the way through from young on, and it is always a highlight. But we go there together with them. I would encourage all parents to recognize that there are many books in the library. Not every book will be a book that you like or that you want your children to consume. Please get involved in what your children are consuming, because your opportunity to influence is short. I thank you, Council, for walking this road for 6 months with us. As you said, Don, it has been challenging. We've had many conversations, and we have had some elevated emotions.
Yeah.
This has not been an easy conversation. But I thank you that we're able to be at a place today that we point to the Board of Directors of the South Central Regional Library to fulfill the work that they are there. This is not our job. We are asking our appointees to do what they can to exert some influence, but ultimately, it is the library board's job to make these decisions. Do we have any final comments before we move to the vote? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? 1. Jody, if you could record that vote, please. Okay. That takes us to questions from the media or public relevant to this meeting of council. If you could.
Good evening. My name is Diedrich Wall. I live near Winkler, don't live within the city of Winkler. So I have one question and maybe a couple statements. First question is, Mayor Siemens, if I understood you correctly, so that the city of Winkler has the ability to appoint 2 board members to the South Central Regional Library?
That is correct.
Okay, so as I understand, Councillor Don Fair is appointed. Who would be the second?
We have a citizen appointment as well. That
Okay.
position is currently open. There will shortly be an announcement, likely through our social media piece, on people to express interest in being on that board. It'll be a very, very short application piece, but basically, I would like to be a representative. They'll need to then go through the requirements of a board of director position at the library and be able to attest that they're prepared to serve in that capacity. If, in fact, they're able to do so, we will then take those applications. We haven't yet determined how we will vet them and how we will determine them, but we want to make sure that the community as a whole has an opportunity to participate.
Okay, perfect. And that would have to be a member of the city of Winkler?
That is correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I appreciate you acknowledging that and just clarifying that. Next, just want to make a quick statement here. I had some stuff written down. I'm not going to use that today. I'm just going to speak from the heart. I want to thank each and every one of you council members, Mayor Siemens, for all those who supported it. Marvin Plett, I know you opposed it. Doesn't mean I don't have respect for you. I disagree with your opinion on it, obviously, respectfully so. And yeah, I just can't thank you enough for the city of Winkler for listening to the citizens' cry in regards to this situation. I'm very, very passionate about this movement. Like I said, I'm not from here. I haven't done official presentations here, but I have been with the Arma Stanley. And I certainly hope that you're in communication with the Arma Stanley. I think that from some of the conversations I've had there, that I think they would be very supportive of this resolution. And yeah, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know you're elected to do God's work for him in a roundabout way for those of you that believe, which I strongly believe that that's the case here. And you are doing your true calling and what you're called to do as public servants. And you've heard the concerns. I agree with Councillor Michael Grenier that I think the books should be removed from the shelves. That has been our ask since day one. But that being said, I think this is a huge move in the right direction, putting them on shelves where my young daughter or my young boys don't just have access to them when they do run freely. I can attest as well to Mayor Siemens, as you stated, and as Michael stated as well, it's our utmost importance as parents to make sure that we we have to be so diligent these days to make sure that we know what our children are exposed to. And that goes with the library. I totally agree with that we should watch out what our kids grab off the shelves. But that being said, that too, if you have a mom with 3, 4, 5, sometimes more children than that, clearly she's not gonna be able to monitor what every child is gonna grab off the shelf. And right, that's obviously was one of our biggest concern, that the children just can simply grab these off the shelf. So again, I think it's a huge step in the right direction by moving them to an adult section. And again, ultimately, I wish they could be pulled off the shelves, but I understand the complexity of the situation. You know, you have to try and cater to everybody. And again, just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I trust God will richly bless you for doing what you're doing here. Again, I know this hasn't been passed through, but you've done your part. So I really appreciate that, and thank you, and may God bless you all for it.
Thank you for your
Thank
comments,
you.
Steve. Any other questions or comments?
If I can clarify, yeah, I did not, and hopefully it wasn't, came across that way in my statement, did not have any indication that I wanted any books removed. So just to clarify, if that was the understanding, that's, I disagree with the books, but that's my personal opinion.
My apologies.
That's all right.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, not seeing anybody else. Oh, sorry.
I just didn't want to get up and interrupt in the middle of somebody saying something.
For the record, your name?
David Wall,
Hi, David.
405 Red Hawk Trail, Winkler. I know I've got a piece of paper up here, but I actually wasn't really prepared this evening to say something. I just threw some thoughts on a piece of paper, so if I stumble around a little bit, I'm only using the piece of paper because I'm not as eloquent as Rick. But, good evening, board members, as well as ladies and gentlemen of the public. To the board, thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes, and I won't take much time. I speak tonight as a husband, and as a father, and as a tax-paying resident of Winkler. And I do so out of concern for the types of some of the books and some of the materials that are available in the South Central Regional Libraries. And I appreciate the motion, the policy here tonight to request that these books be placed in a different part of the library. That is a good starting place. Some of these are ebooks, though, and so that actually doesn't help in those cases. But I did not bring any of the books here or excerpts from them, so there's no concern of me making any sort of public spectacle in that way. I'm here in hopes of presenting or of asking you to take a look again at the public petition that was signed by thousands of people. There was also a business petition that I hear was not permitted to be presented to you, but I hope that you would, if that is a
I'll
possibility.
interject for 1 second, David.
Yes.
We did accept that petition.
Okay, I apologize.
That petition
Okay.
Is in our minutes today and is a public
Oh,
record.
fantastic, okay.
Thank you.
So I hope that you'll obviously review that and take that seriously. I came in a little late, so I apologize there if I got that detail wrong. But I also want to raise the concern from perhaps a new angle. If you'll allow me to draw some quick comparisons, and I won't take much time, but cigarettes in some places in Canada are hid from view. You can't even see them. One CBC News article headline reads, "Top Court Upholds Tough Tobacco Ad Laws." Another CBC article reads, "Health Canada has announced new warning labels be printed directly on cigarettes in an effort to deter new smokers, to encourage quitting, to reduce tobacco-related deaths, a world first that experts hope will have a significant impact. There will be multiple sets of 6 warnings on cigarettes themselves that will change in rotation with messages like cigarettes cause cancer, cigarettes damage your organs, and tobacco smoke harms children." I didn't bring cigarettes with me. I'd smoked for 19 years actually, but when I got saved, the Lord cured me of my smoking. So I didn't bring cigarettes with me, but I do hold in my hand a bottle of acetaminophen. This bottle is equipped with a special lid that makes it difficult to open. Why? Because inside are pills that can harm you. The warning label says severe or possible fatal liver damage may occur. Keep out of reach of children. All capital letters, bold labeling there. This package contains enough drug, and this is still the quote, "This package contains enough drug to seriously harm a child." In the section of the Criminal Code of Canada dealing with the definition of child pornography, one of the defenses against being convicted of an offense dealing with the possession, publication, or distribution of child pornography is a clause which reads, "No person shall be convicted of an offense under this section if the act that is alleged to constitute the offense has a legitimate purpose related to the administration of justice or to science, medicine, education, or art. However, there's another clause which immediately follows that, which says, and it can precede nullify that preceding clause, and it reads this way. It stipulates that the material in question does not pose an undue risk of harm to persons under the age of 18 years old. I've been researching case law which sets the precedent for what the term undue risk of harm actually means. I'm willing to publicly debate against those materials. I won't do that here, but I'm willing to do that. I have a strong case, and I have been in discussions with lawyers and with law enforcement. This is not a threat, it's a fact. Again, I did not bring any of the books with me tonight, which have been raised by members of the public as a concern. Several of you have mentioned that you've read them or looked at them. Frankly, this is not a book complaint. It is a policy complaint and a funding complaint. Last time I was here, it was mentioned that if these books were deemed to be a risk to children, that it could potentially be a consideration that this council might look at funding in the next budget cycle. If cigarettes and Tylenol need to be controlled due to their risk of physical harm, then materials in our libraries which affects the minds and souls of children and has a greater risk of harm and potentially much longer lasting effects, they should be much more wisely managed. And again, I think that move tonight, that policy that was voted on is a good first step. Once more, though, I'm here speaking tonight as a husband and as a father, as a taxpaying citizen of Winkler, but foremost, as someone who believes the Bible. I also make this presentation as someone who has personally suffered both physical and sexual abuse as a child. I was groomed by an older family member at the age of 10. I'm someone who's been wounded mentally, spiritually, emotionally by pornography over the course of more than 3 decades. And some of that was introduced to me by a family member. After gaining a good measure of personal victory over the harm caused during these events in my life, and after having received some training in biblical counseling, I've been blessed to be able to provide help and counsel to several young people and adults who have similar experiences and who've suffered similar harm. If these materials are just fine, ask yourself, why are the cries for decorum in council chambers when members of the public go to read excerpts from these books? Why can these materials not be read in chambers to adults? Because some would cite undue risk of harm. If these pictures cannot be posted on our national news media because they violate community standards, then no one should be showing them to a 10-year-old. To review the business petition and invite further discussion and debate on such a sensitive and important topic should not be an unreasonable request. Sounds like that has been considered reasonable. For you, City Council elected to positions of authority and tasked with the safety of our community, this is not an unreasonable request to continue discussions with the library. And I know that you have said that you're going to do that. I'm just urging you to do that strongly. After all, if a child is harmed, are each of you willing to take responsibility? I'll end with this. There's a quote from the Manitoba Library Association which says, some limitations on the free flow of information and ideas might include restrictions on the circulation of or access to criminal content such as child pornography or incitements to terrorist activity. Even the Manitoba Library Association admits that expression of knowledge and freedom of speech has limitations under certain circumstances. And the Bible says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, and put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, David. And again, on terms of policy, your best bet remains
Right.
to talk to the board
Yes.
at the library, to go through the proper processes there, to file appeals, and then to make your presentation there. But certainly, I appreciate your comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here who has a question or comment before we close? Anybody online, Wendy? Okay. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover. Don. Second.
I can help.
Peter.